Welcome back to the O Hockey Show. Today, I'm going to throw my hat into the ring and take some predictions at what I think is going to be the shaping of the divisions this upcoming season. I went all the way through the teams. I've gone from Anaheim to Winnipeg. I've traveled across the country, the continent, and except for a country. But anyways, have come to the conclusion I'm going to predict the rankings of each division, and then from there, go on and predict the Stanley Cup winner of the 2022-23 season. Now, today we're going to start with the Metropolitan division. After going through all the teams, I've come up with my mind of where I think the teams are going to place. So we're going to start with the Metro because I just wanted to start east. So, first, let's start off with number 8. At the bottom of... Oh, it's covering it a little bit. At the bottom of the division, we've got the Philadelphia Flyers. Look at that. We're a homemade show here, folks. It's we're doing what we got. The Flyers, to me, over this offseason, I like the addition of John Tortorella, and I like Tony DeAngelo, but I don't really think it's going to really help what their problem is. I mean, their problem really already is that they've got, like, Rasmus Ristolainen, a guy who's, like, I think led the league in minus in, like, the last 2 years, or at least the other year he had, like, the worst minus number ever or something like that. I just know that he's, like, I don't know if he's ever been a positive player, so that's one thing. But, like, overall, this team just has never really bounced back, and they don't really have the depth. And they don't really have that offensive talent, especially with injuries to guys like Ryan Ellis and guys like Provorov that don't really get that many points for defense. And as someone like Carter Hart and Net Hot, like I'm not sold on them. You know, I like the addition of Tortorella, and I think he could really whip this team into shape. He does good with teams that aren't really the most stacked offensively. He gets a lot out of his teams, especially if they work hard, and I think the Flyers this year could definitely bounce back. The thing about the Flyers, then, we all know this, is that they are a team that goes up and down every single season. They are either all the way to the top of the league or they are right at the bottom of it. And I personally think that this is going to be a year where they're finally stuck at the bottom. But with a guy, if it was any other coach than John Tortorella, I would say this team's, they're out. But with Torts, I think he can whip this team into shape. And Tony DeAngelo, I don't really I love him, but I don't really think he's like a real key addition to a team. I think he would be great in the playoffs, but he's not like a team saver by any means. But those two together in the same team, in the same locker room, I want to see that conversation happen. So I have the Flyers still at the bottom for 2 years in a row, and they easily could be all the way up here. I wouldn't be surprised. That's just the type of team that they are. But they haven't recovered from their skill loss of, like, Giroux, and that's really it. Giroux is their heart and soul of that team. So next, number 7, we've got the... Hold on. There we go. Once again, kind of covered the New York Islanders at number 7. Now, a team that I have not ever been really sold on. This is a team that I said in my preview that I believe that they are a team perfectly built for the playoffs. Defensively so strong. This is the best built for defense team in the league, I think. Or I guess, like, overall for defense. They're obviously a defensive team, especially with Barry Trotz's coaching style. But he's no longer on the team, so their defensive build is going to go down. And as they don't really have, like, for their new coach, which I should know who that is, but I don't. They don't really have the offense to really overcome real obstacles. You know, like, they might play great defense and have a great goalie in net, but they don't really have that offensive punch. I mean, I'm not sold on a team where my top guys are Brock Nelson. And I love Matt Barzal. I think he could be a superstar, absolute superstar, top of the league player if he was on a team that encouraged goal scoring, which that could be this year. Everything could change this year with a new coach and a new style of play. But to me, the Islanders are are a perfectly built team for the playoffs, especially underneath Barry Trotz, but with a new coach, I'm not really sold on them, and I think the Islanders are going to have a tough time in the season. And I think they drop down to 7th, which puts them right behind number 6 in the rankings. We've got, there we go, the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that finished all the way up here the last season, but I don't want to say it was a fluke, but certain guys like Evgeny Malkin and Letang and Crosby, they're top guys. I don't want to say they're out of it yet. Guy like Crosby isn't really that old, and he's also obviously still great. Letang isn't really that old either. Malkin is. Malkin, I would have let walk this season. I would have rather have seen them sign someone else. But as I went through my video for them, I believe that the Penguins' center core, especially Malkin and Carter, I mean, those guys are so old. They're both, 38 or something, 39 going into this season. Or I think there's something along those lines. They're pretty. I think Carter might be 38 and Malkin's 36 or 7 or something. They're just, to me, Malkin had a good season for how many games he played last year, but he got injured for the second year in a row. I'm not really sold on them, especially with their decline, with their growing age and their decline in numbers. I just feel like something could easily. This seems like the year that something's going to finally slip out. Carter's not going to have those legs anymore. Malkin's not going to be the machine anymore. And Crosby, already had 84 points last year, which obviously respectable number, but that's not really super amazing offense out there. And also, they bring in a guy like Jeff Petrie, who I actually saw the other day has the most giveaways of any player or something like that, in the top 5 at least of players in the last years or so, which that's obviously an interesting stat, I guess. And guys in that like Jari and DeSmith, they seem to be good one year, but I'm not really sold, especially in the playoffs. DeSmith just showed that he was completely useless in the playoffs. So I feel like this could be the year where things just fall off. Guys like Brian Rust had great years last year, but I don't really believe that they can keep it up. A guy like Zucker on their second line only had 20-something points. I'm just not completely sold on the idea of this team yet. And I think their defense, everything seems really bland. Last year, I think they just lucked out into getting into that third place spot, because I don't think they should have been anywhere near that. I think they should be right here at number 6, which means they're right outside of that number 5 spot, which is the New Jersey Devils, as it's somewhat covered up, but that's whatever. So the Devils, to me, are a team that can totally break out this year. I think with how much young talent they have in Holtz, Hughes, Heischer, I guess he's not really that young anymore, but he can still grow. They've got so much young talent on this one single team. It's just they've got, like I said in that video, is that, and some of these other teams with a lot of young guys, is that they don't have that superstar main guy that was there before to elevate their games. And it's going to take them a little bit longer to get their games up there because they don't have that guy to feed them the puck, to bring them to that level immediately. And I think these guys are going to slowly develop, and maybe this is the season where a guy like Hughes breaks out, where Holtz can break out, where these certain players can finally tune in to that superstar player that they could possibly be. I think they've got, defensively, they lost Subban last year, which is that really a loss? Defensively, I'm not really sold on this team, but they still have some good guys in there, especially with Hamilton. Goaltending, I don't think Mackenzie Blackwood's actually signed, or is he? I don't know. I'm kind of confused and lost there. But I like Mackenzie Blackwood in net. I think that's a good guy there. I've always liked Blackwood. I think he can be a star. And it's all depending on those guys breaking out. And they haven't proven that they can yet. And I think once they do, they could easily be right here at number 2. But I think this might not be the year yet. I think this team needs to bring in one more guy to elevate everyone's game. Because everyone's slowly growing, but they don't have that guy to give them that boost, like a power-up. And I think that's the main problem with this team for the Devils. But they could easily be up here. Now, 5th place, they could steal a playoff spot. But I think a team that could win into a playoff spot this year is, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Yes, the only team that I didn't put the name of where they're from. So, the Columbus Blue Jackets, in my mind, are going to have a great year this year. They already show that they're competent without like a guy like Johnny Hockey. Obviously, they added him. They showed last year that they were almost in the playoffs. I mean, they were far, but they were almost there. They were the last team not to be in the top. They were right outside of the playoff spot. I think they were like the second team outside of it. Like, they could have won into that spot. And I think with an addition like Johnny Hockey, who's going to elevate guys' games like Line, like Jenner, like all these guys on the team, I think a guy like Gaudreau is going to be that guy like the Devils needed, who they could have signed him. They tried to, but apparently he didn't want to go there for some reason, so I don't know. But the Blue Jackets, I think with the addition of a guy like Johnny Hockey, who is going to bring those guys' games, especially Line-A's, bring them up, I think is going to be a huge deal for them. Now, of course, I think that they lost a big deal, not a huge deal, but a big deal in Oliver Bjorkstrand this offseason. But I think Johnny Hockey is going to add that oomph that this team needs to get into a playoff spot. Now, in fourth, they could get it. Of course, they're in the wild cards territory, but the Atlantic is so stacked. But I'll have to make a decision there when I get to my playoff video. So I think they could get it. I think the Devils could also be in that spot. But I think Johnny Hockey was that proven guy that's going to bring everyone's games up. So, which means they're right outside of a solidified playoff spot, right behind the number 3 place New York Rangers. Now, the Rangers, obviously, a huge, great team. All the talents, Zibanejad, Panarin, guys coming up like Lafreniere. They added Vincent Trocheck in defense, obviously, Trouba and Adam Fox. They've got some amazing pieces. And in net, of course, Igor Shesterkin, who I got to make a video on. This team, from top to bottom, is really well built, except I feel like offensively they need a little depth, but that's the thing is that they got. The difference is that teams like the Devils or the Penguins or some of these teams, like they do have some sort of depth where they have some guys getting some points by the bottom, but their top guys are making so many points that it's okay. And the Rangers, in my eyes, they got second place last year, and I'm just not. I think Trocheck is kind of not. I've never been the biggest fan of Trocheck. I don't really think he's a great addition. I think this team. I think the Rangers are going to be awesome. They're obviously in a playoff spot. I just don't think that they've upgraded it enough. And I kind of have a feeling a guy like Panarin is going to have his like down year this season. I feel like every few years, the top players have a somewhat down year. And I feel like a guy like Panarin this could be the year where he kind of goes down and Zibanejad kind of goes down. Now, if guys like Lafreniere and Capo Caco can step up and actually play in those positions, that would be a totally different story. But I think the reason I put them at third and not second or maybe even first is because I think the teams above them either were already too good or, like number 2, I think the Washington Capitals just added the perfect amount of amazing talent to the lineup to push them over that edge. I think the Capitals, with Darcy Kemper in net, along with Dylan Strome and, God damn it, what the hell is that guy's name? The other guy on the second line, whatever his name is. Connor Brown. That's not only it. Whatever. I think their additions they made this offseason are really good. And that's not even counting the fact that guys like Tom Wilson, Backstrom, and Hagelin can find their way back into the lineup. They've already got Johnny Norris in the back, John Carlson. You've got Alexander Ovechkin, who I didn't give enough praise to in that video. They've got so much talent on this team. And now they had a somewhat okay defense. But now, last season, I would say their biggest problem was that some of their guys got injured, but also that their goaltending, Samsonov and Vanacek, weren't really the best and not really consistently good. Now they've got a solidified beast in net in Darcy Kemper, and I think he will stand up, and Kemp's and Caps. I mean, Kemp's on the Caps, that just goes together. So I think that is going to be an amazing combination for those, and I think with a outstanding goaltender in the back, I think the Capitals are going to be a huge force this season. which I think the only team in their division that can overcome them is, obviously, if you haven't put it together at this point, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Jerks. So, this team I praise so much. I think the Hurricanes are going to be amazing. They're Stanley Cup contenders. I think they just got outbeaten, and the injuries on the team led them to their downfall in the playoffs. This team, the Hurricanes, are just so well built all the way through. I think the only thing that they need is a little bit, I think that if they get I would say maybe try to go for a goaltender that isn't going to be injured, but Anderson is still pretty good. I just feel like if you got a goaltender that you don't have to really question if he's going to get injured or not, would be great. But I think if he stays healthy, this team, I mean, defense, offense, goaltending, if it's healthy, is amazing. They've even got young guys coming up the ranks. They have young players that are going to play for them and play well. That this whole team is just so well put together, along with like additions like Brent Burns, a guy that can come to this team and bounce back. This team is just amazing. Now they lost Trocheck in the offseason, but they got someone back, but I can't remember who it was right now. This team is just so good overall. I mean, they've got young guys coming up too. Like this, I just can't get over how much the Hurricanes are a real deal team. Along with the atmosphere of their arena and the fans, like when you play against them on home ice, this is going to be such a hard team to play against, especially in the playoffs and everyone's kicking. The Hurricanes, I think, are going to be solidify. I think the only team in this division, the only way that someone overcomes them is if the Capitals with Kemper are really dominant, or I think maybe if the New Jersey Devils, if their guys finally play to their elite level status of potential, I think could pass them up too. But that is a huge what if. So I think this is what happens. These are the guys going in. Of course, that means the Capitals will play the Rangers in the playoffs, and the Carolina Hurricanes could potentially play the Blue Jackets or the Devils or someone in the Atlantic Division. So I think that's all I have to really say about this. We got the Flyers, Islanders, Penguins, Devils, Jackets, Rangers, Capitals, and Hurricanes in that order, and I think that is great for the Metropolitan Division. I think that's going to be a pretty solid selection there. Tell me if you disagree. Obviously, you're going to. Down below, I'm sure not a lot of people are going to like where like someone like the Penguins and the Islanders were placed, and that the Blue Jackets are so much higher. But tell me all that down below, because leave a like and pick up your free subscription down below. I've read the subscribe button. Leave a like, not a dislike, down below to the comment section, and leave any comments, concerns, suggestions, reviews, feedback, or other sorts of tangents, rants, and opinions, and tell me what do you think about my list and how wrong I am. Until next time, I've been the dapperly dressed Owen of the O Hockey Show, and too sweet, and ta-ta for now.